Hello guys, welcome to module 4 of the serverless application model and series. And then we'll be learning about continuous integration and continuous delivery. Here you learn how to create a CI/CD pipeline for a SAM application using GitHub Actions workflows. You also inspect the generated CI/CD pipeline to understand how it works. And you learn how to enable unit tests for the generated CI/CD pipeline. So if you are ready, let's dive in. So this is part 4 or module 4, which will be continuous integration, continuous delivery. I'll be setting up CI/CD pipeline for this SAM application we've been working with using GitHub Actions workflow or GitHub. I'll also look at how it works, I'll enable unit tests and do some other things. So let's move on. So let's first understand some of the concepts behind it. I'll be using a feature of SAM called SAM pipelines to actually deploy the serverless application in an automated manner. So you would, based on the image, the developer develops his code, pushes his changes to the Git or Git repository, and then automatically that triggers a build pipeline, and from there deployment directly into the AWS account. So you can have your prod side and your dev side for development and production. So yeah, that's it. The AWS SAM CLI supports generating starter CI/CD pipeline configurations for AWS CodePipeline, Jenkins, GitLab, CI/CD, GitHub Actions, Bitbucket pipelines. For this, we'll be using GitHub Actions. So yeah, that's using SAM pipelines, and of course GitHub CloudFormation, which we've seen previously, are the things that I would need. So you have to have a GitHub account and some knowledge about that. So yes, firstly we need to create a Git repository, as that is where the code will be stored. So I'll come down here. Okay, I already have one, so I'll just create a new one for this particular project. And same name, SAM app. I'm just going to leave every other thing the way it is. Create repository. So now it has been created, and I'm just going to leave this one the way it is. So after that, the step 2 is to configure the credentials. So you can go through this, but we'll be using HTTPS with personal access tokens. That will be what will give access to command line to actually do all the push and everything. So firstly, let me get the token. Yeah, I was actually looking for developer settings. So I'm coming down to personal access tokens and just tokens classic. So the one I had expired yesterday. So I'm just going to generate a new token, classic here. And new SAM app token, and then I'll set it in. I might just delete it immediately after, and then we'll need workflow to be turned on so that we can update GitHub Actions workflows. So I think that's what we'll need. Did I set up any other thing? Yeah, so that's it. And then generate token. So this is the new token I'll be using to grant access. And then I think I've done Git configuration for my name, Git config user.name. Okay, I already have this that's user.name. So I'll just leave this not in a Git directory. Okay, yeah. I haven't I haven't initialized it. I first have to run git init b main initialization. So now I've initialized this, and I should have am I in the right folder? No. I should be here. Yeah, so now we have .git, so that's, we initialize that. So now I can run config. Yeah, that went. Then email also. So I've done that configuration. Then I'll come down to, I've done the initialization. Then I'll run this other command, echo e-target git ignore. Although that's optional. Target am I correct? Git ignore. Okay, and then possible matches. So I'm just going to leave that one basically, because it doesn't really have much this thing. So git add, it adds all the files in the directory. Then git commit. Now this is a new SAM app. So that's then the, okay, this one says initial commit. Then okay, before we push, you need to add the GitHub repository URL. So git remote add origin. So it's still the same. Since I just recreated this, the link, it doesn't change. So depending on what you're working with, you might just need to do a little modification here. But this is still the same name. So since I've added it, it knows where the data is, or the files are going, and then I can now run git push. New origin main, and that should send all our files. Okay, I have a mistake. Git push. I'm supposed to sign in, so I'm going to sign in with token, and I'm going to copy my personal access token from here. And then I'm going to paste it here. Sign. So that's done, and we're done. So once I check here, come back to let me close this. Okay, let me refresh this. Repositories. So I've updated now. So as you can see, this is a new SAM app which I just created. And yeah, all the files that we created, the .aws SAM and all others have been here. So it also has a README file which you can go through also. So 2 minutes ago, all of this was configured. So now I've gone through this other step. All our code has been moved to GitHub, and now I've also even done the verification, and we can now start building the CI/CD pipeline. So now let's just go through this important thing to know. So when we build CI/CD pipelines, especially when you have many, you build them programmatically. It's easier that way, using infrastructure as code rather than manually doing it one by one. In the microservices world, you can have a pipeline for each service, or if you want to, where you are, or in the microservices world where you have many services, it will be hard for you to do manual deployments for all of them. So automation just makes it easier, and it gives you freedom. You can just do things fast without worrying too much about some of those things that are automatic. And so using SAM pipelines from the beginning is SAM since I started this particular series. And different tools can be used. You have SAM, you have CloudFormation, CDK, Terraform. So here is SAM. SAM is actually based on CloudFormation. So moving on, you can still go through this. SAM pipelines work by creating a set of configuration and infrastructure files used to create and manage your CI/CD pipelines. SAM pipelines can bootstrap CI/CD pipelines for the following providers. So we have CodePipeline, which is AWS based, Jenkins, GitLab, CI/CD, GitHub Actions. I've actually listed this in one of my previous slides, but here I'll be using GitHub Actions. So there is a synchronization with your GitHub using the GitHub pipeline.yam file, which we are going to look at. And if you want to actually understand how it works, there is firstly a trigger after you commit to the main branch from your local machine. Then it runs a unit test. I think the first part you might just need to ignore unit test, but then if you have unit test configured, you can run unit test, then build and package your application code via GitHub Actions, and then you deploy it to a dev test environment. Then do your integration test, and then you deploy to a production environment, and there you have everything set up. So AWS SAM application is hosted in the GitHub repository, as we know, which we've created, and then we'll actually need to create CI/CD resources in AWS that support a two-stage deployment pipeline for the serverless application deployment. What does this mean? It means that the same resources will be deployed in two different places on AWS, one for your dev environment and the second for your prod environment. You can choose to have two accounts. The image says two accounts, but I'll still be using the same account for both of them. But there will be two different artifact buckets, two different rules, two different resources will actually be created for each of the two different sets of resources we created for each of the environments. So we'll be creating the application deployment targets, the dev pipeline stage, prod pipeline stage, the GitHub Actions workflow, and we'll create that and then we'll do the deployment. So it's a mouthful, and but it takes practice and then be able to actually get it. So firstly, we need to run the start with the pipeline, initiate the pipeline. So we're going to run this command SAM pipeline bootstrap, and the first is, so we're actually be doing it for two different stages, the dev stage and the prod stage. So I'll come here. I'm just going to make this smaller so you can see. See that. So that's some pipeline. Bootstrap. So the stage, okay, this is prod, so I'm going to change this to dev. And there are some questions that we need to answer. And I've already actually kept some of them there. Select the credentials to associate. So I'm just going to use my account. I'm going to use my user account number 4. So this is my associated. So the region wants this, actually wants US East 1. So I'm using OpenID Connect, which will grant GitHub access into AWS. So that's number 2. And it's GitHub Actions 1. So this has been set, so I'm just going to click enter. This is STS Amazon.aws.com, leave that alone. No organization, leave that. Okay, I think I have to. Okay, the organization where this has to go. So I think that's my name. Or let me confirm. Yeah. So if there's no organization, enter username. So okay, yeah, it's my GitHub username. So that's the repository name is SAM app. Branch main, yes. Reference application. Enter the pipeline rule here. So it creates what for me. Creates that for me. Artifact bucket name. So all these ones will just be created automatically. You don't need to bother about that. Does the application contain any image type, lambda functions? Let me see. Okay, so that's N for no. So we get a summary. Please enter to confirm. So just enter that. So it's to create IAM or ICD identity provider. This is what would grant, as I said before, it is what will grant GitHub access into AWS, pipeline execution rule, cloud formation execution rule, the artifact bucket. So should we proceed? Yes, proceed. So it's creating the required resources. And this is definitely going to take some time. And we're still going to repeat this for this is the dev stage. I'm going to repeat it for prod. So in building the prod stage, it's just going to be the same thing with the dev. So we're just going to repeat some of these things for the other stage. So as it's creating the required resources, we should be able to check in with AWS and see. Let me see if there's any. Okay, 12 to 109. So yeah, so this is already being created. Review in progress. Okay, so it has created an S3 bucket policy. It has done all this. Creating progress. It's creating an IAM policy right now. But I don't think we have any output yet. Okay, now I'll put it here. So events, these are the, so still creating all of this, the OICD provider, artifact login bucket, execution rule, cloud formation, execution rule. So as I said, this might take, okay, I think that's done. And following resources were created in your account, so that's done. So I'm going to repeat the same thing for prod stage. So I'm just going to run the same command, and instead of dev, I'm going to change this to prod. Click enter. Yes, so still the same profile, my account. So the region US, East, not West, yes, East 1. No, create for me. Does the application contain image? I think that was N. Yeah, so that's, I think that's N. ACR image repository, leave that alone. So enter. So same thing be created, so yes. So now we'll have, once this is done, we'll have the two stages, dev and prod. And then once this pipeline has been set up, data can now flow. So the pipeline is just like a connection, a schematic that will allow communication, will allow movement and synchronizations. So creating the required resources. So let's see. Okay, so the other one is being created now. So AWS SAM CLI manage dev pipeline resources, then the prod pipeline resources. This has been completed. Okay, this is the default. Okay, this was the one. This was the one I used in the manual deployment without CI/CD. So there's no integration with GitHub here, but this tool actually has the fact of what we are configuring now. So this won't work anymore because the API gateway has been deleted. This is localhost, but this shouldn't work so because we've stopped it. Yeah, so just waiting for this to actually finish up. Okay, so now that's done. So we can view this in SAM pipeline. Okay, so let me check this out. I'll close this. Now Git. Yeah, I think it's Git. No, SAM pipeline config.tom. SAM pipeline config.tom. I need to be using Visual Studio Code. I'll just set this to always. Okay, so yeah, this is the pipeline config file, and it has some of the configuration details like the region US East 1, artifact bucket. So you can see two different buckets here for dev and for prod, and then OICD client. So these are just the details of the pipeline that connects GitHub to AWS. So yeah, we've done that step. We've done step 1 and step 2. So just this simple note: resources you see are created by CloudFormation stack that SAM pipeline sets up and launched for you. So we don't need to do all of those things manually. So yeah, we've actually gone to the CloudFormation console, we've taken a look at it, and as I said, this IAM OICD identity provider, which connects to AWS accounts to an external service like GitHub. So that's the connection and allows safe communication, safe movement. So yeah, I've done this part. So now actually have to create the GitHub Actions workflow. So now that I've done the set up the pipeline for the 2 stages, we'll now run the command for creating GitHub Actions workflow. You don't need to cram all the commands. There's a lot of them, but like a documentation you can follow, and then after some time some of the commands begin to stick some pipeline in it. Right. So it's like initialization. So before we ran SAM and just init, but now we're initializing the pipeline and not just the SAM application itself. So quick start template is, so it's cloning from this, setting it up, and it's setting it up for GitHub Actions 3. So yes, 2 stages were detected. Here's the 2 stages we did. Matching the template requirements. If these are incorrect, delete that, but it's actually correct. So what is the Git branches for production deployments mean? So that's prod. What is the template file path? Yes, template dummy. Yeah, that's correct. Here are the stage configuration names. So that will be, what are the, here are the stages. So we'll be using to prod. What is stand for stage 1? The verification. Okay, what is the Git branches for production deployments? Main. That should have been, I should have just clicked enter on that. So I'm just going to cancel this and say yes, and then run it again. So yes, quick start pipeline template. So GitHub Actions, yes, 3. So I'm just going to click enter, template file. Yes. So here are the 2 stages. Select an index or enter stage 1's configuration name. So 1 SAM app dev, 2 SAM app prod. 1 SAM app dev, 2 SAM app prod. So we'll be creating these 2 CloudFormation stacks, one for dev, one for prod. And you can see there's a mapping. SAM app dev will have for 1, which is dev, 2 would have prod. So I'll just click enter on that. So successfully created the pipeline configuration files. So if I go to GitHub workflows pipeline, I should see that there. As a for GitHub workflows. GitHub workflows pipeline. So this has all the information that will be needed to actually do all the CI/CD movements. So there's a lot of things here, but I can go through them. So right now they have build and deploy, and you have the region. So some of these data are actually inside the some other configuration files like here, region. So it's to fetch region and assign it there, and then build and package. So these are all the steps that are going to be done. As you can see, jobs. After build and package, deploy testing, then integration test, and then deploy prod. So this is the pipeline.yaml file. So let's see if I have any notes here. Yeah, so what we've done is created the GitHub Actions workflow to create a full CI/CD pipeline using GitHub Actions and other AWS services. So this is the structure now, and from that workflows folder, I was able to see the pipeline file, which is the new file. So I've opened it. There are a lot of lines of workflows that were created, and it would have been tedious to have to create that kind by crafting it offhand. So we haven't created the CI/CD system just yet, but we need to commit the CI/CD configuration files to the repository. And once that is done, the GitHub Actions workflow will be created. So right now, I'm just going to run git add or git commit, and the message would be adding the configuration pipeline configuration, and then yeah, so git push. I'm just going to do this. So that's gone. So moving on, step 4, deploy GitHub Actions workflow. So we need to commit the CI/CD configuration files, and I've done that. Yeah, I've done that. Now that the configuration has been pushed, GitHub Actions will take over, create and execute the very first workflow based on the pipeline YAML committed. So let me check this out in Actions. So yeah, it's already going. So this is the first workflow. The first time I actually did this, I had some errors and I had to modify some of the files. So adding pipeline configuration, so you can see the whole process that's going to go. Yeah, so there's a failure here, build and package. And once this failed, every other thing fails. So I still need to do that modification. And let me come here. So I think the issue is because there are two. Let me see if I can still find that error here. Build and process. Build and okay. Build and package. So you should be able to see the error there, yeah. So upload artifact to test. So it says cannot use both resolve S3 and S3 bucket parameters. Please use only one. So I'm going to comment off. I'm going to do a comment, and yeah. So that's the SAM config.tom. Yeah, SAM config.tom file. So I need to go search for that. So this is it. I'm going to open this. I'm going to comment out resolve S3. So I'm going to comment out resolve S3. Where is it? I think I have to. Okay, I've done this. Yeah, so resolve S3. I'm going to comment this out, and resolve S3. I'm going to comment this out, and then I'm going to save this. So if there is any other change I need to make, so I'm also going to do some modifications. I'm going to add no confirm change set because it's actually going to need a verification, but that gave an issue there. So I'm going back to, I have so many tabs open. Pipeline.config. Hope I'm in the right place. No, I'm not. So it's pipeline.yam. Yes, so I'm in the right place now. So under okay, I think I'm just going to close off some of this so I don't. Okay, I don't need this one open. Close this also. Test handler. I'll close this also. Okay, so I've saved this. And yeah, under deploy to testing account, so this is deploy to production account. So no confirm change set, then deploy to testing account. I also need to add this here, no confirm change set, and I'm going to save. So right now I shouldn't have any issues. So I'm just going to run git add, git commit. No, this is not adding. Yeah. I'll just leave that as it is. And git, so you can see the two files have changed. I'm going to push that. So now that has gone, it should automatically start up a new pipeline. So now I can see this and we open it up. So this should function properly. So build and package is completed. I have two artifacts, and if I click on this, okay, the artifact haven't generated yet. So I have 2 stages completed now. You can see how long it's taking for it to run. 2 minutes 24 seconds. So deploy prod, and that's also completed. So now we get a success message, and if I come to artifacts, okay, it's not actually showing the artifact, but then let me come down to my cloud formation, and as you can see, we have SAM app prod and SAM app dev. So we have our two different stacks, and if you open up let's open up prod, you can see the resources. So we have the hello world function, the hello world function rule, serverless REST API, and all of that. So let me come to output, and then let's try and open up the hello world API, and as you can see, you get a response. And also if we come down to that's the prod, come to dev, and let me open this in a new tab. I also get a response, different URLs, because there are 2 different endpoints. So we've successfully done that. So we expected the pipeline, and then we've also seen the results, and we've done some testing. I didn't use Scala, I just loaded it from the browser, but that also works. So then you can enable unit tests also. So there are 2 steps to enabling unit tests. Edit the pipeline.yam and add some commands, then we'll commit and push the changes. So I'm just going to copy this. This is git commit. So under test, I'm going to come here and look for the test, just test. So jobs test. So this is the first step to actually do the testing. So then I'm going to add this. So it's actually going to run the same thing we did locally, but this time around we're going to automate it within the pipeline. So so now that I'll save this, now come here and commit again, add commit. Then this time around I'm adding the unit test, enter, and then push. So right now it will set up a new workflow, and then we should be able to see it run some tests. Okay, so let me come down to here. So now this, I'll come to see the new pipeline. So this is the adding the unit test. This one failed, so I'm just going to delete this workflow. Delete this workflow run. So just free up stuff. Then adding the unit test. So right now you're going to see it actually do the testing. Okay, so yeah, the test has completed. And if we open this up, we should see a validation message. So let me see, setup job run actions. Okay, that should be here on the trigger the test here. So yes, one passed. So we can see that there was a pass mark, or say pass mark. There was a passing of the test and it's verified. But if hello world was, if I had changed the value on the maybe the testing, it would have failed and it wouldn't have proceeded with the whole workflow. So right now it's doing the integration test and deploying prod, and we'll be able to see the it all here. So before I close this, I'm going to just do a different run and change the output so we see it reflect on the okay, so I think it's completed now, and now as you can see there was a test. So I'm going to change both the test and the okay, so this is the template. The template doesn't change, this doesn't change, this doesn't change. Okay, so this is the unit test. So I'm going to let it return, instead of hello world, hello Ladimeji David. I'm going to save this, and I'm going to go to the app.py, and I'm going to write on here y2. So instead of hello world, hello Ladimeji David, and I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to push this new git add it commit. Instead of changing the unit test, let me say changing the recipient. So instead of, it's not world now, it's a different person. So commit, then I'm going to push this, and then we would see it reflect here. So let me go back to the pipeline. So changing the recipient is running. And I'm going to open this up. So these are my 4th commit now, and it actually passed the test also. So let me open that up, and then okay, and the trigger here. So it did that one item, so it passed. There was a pass of the test, which means because I saved both of them, and then that's it. So that passed. Then also see the build and package. You can see some of these things, and all of them is based on the pipeline, the YAML file. So it runs all these jobs starting from the top, name pipeline on push. So the branch is main, and the environment, you can see everything, the SAM template, testing stack name, the rows, the artifact bucket, the region, and everything, all the parameters needed. Then the permissions, then the jobs. Now all the jobs are now listed. So it starts with the test job. There's a delete feature, so on delete, what to do, build and deploy feature, build and package feature, or job rather, deploy the testing, integration test, deploy prod, and then deploy prod. So based on all of that, that you can see all the processes run based on the pipeline fab. So I'll wait for this to run, then I'll pull it up on here. So this is completed, and we'll see it reflect here. Okay, so update in progress. Okay, update complete. So if I come to the output, let me open up this here. So right now we see hello Oladimiji David. So we've been able to configure for both of them. So this is the dev, and if I come to the prod and I see the output and I open this up here, so this is the new one, still the same one, hello Oladimiji David. And as we can see, it has been updated for both of them. So we've successfully been able to configure CI/CD pipelines for our production and development environment.